so you're watching Crossfire. Thank you for staying with us. Clearly, from what I have seen from my phone, Ambrose is not going to be able to make it. He's just disembarking from the plane right now, so clearly he's not going to make it. But in studio, we have Odoyo Widi, who's a political analyst. On phone, we have Kakai Kissinger, who's a lawyer and who is also joining us to be part of this conversation. We need to have a balanced conversation, whatever it takes, so that's a good point. Kakai, thank you for staying with me. So, Owidi, let me begin with you. Kakai says that was a very reconciliatory speech for the president. He needed to remind Kenyans where we are from, and he doesn't see anything wrong with it.
Linda, most of the commentators never forget to quote the line that President Uhuru Kenyatta said, that he will be the president of all Kenyans. That is what qualifies his long speech to be a reconciliatory speech. Even Adolf Hitler was the president of all Germans. So was Amin of Uganda and Museveni of Uganda. They are president of everyone in their country. Now, if you are a president of everyone, show that you love everyone. If President Uhuru Kenyatta really believed in reconciliation, he shouldn't have gone ahead to commend the police for a job well done, when he knows very well that the other people he wants to reconcile with, their largest complaint, their biggest complaint, is the way the police handled their supporters. Personally, in the village where I come from, the day that IEBC announced that the October 26th election has been postponed in that region, some policemen were going around shooting anyone they found on site. And that one I can testify.
Is that a fact?
Yes, it is a fact. And I participated in that burial of a gentleman who was shot right on top of his motorbike by a policeman.
Okay, but you can't go and say police were shooting anyone and they missed.
Of course, because you see, the moment they fire once, everybody disappears. So whoever they will find, that will be the unlucky one. And this has not happened there only.
So according to you, the president's biggest undoing in terms of uniting this nation was commending the police?
That was not the biggest undoing. That was evidence that he didn't mean the reconciliatory statement that everyone is talking about.
Okay. Kakai, what are your thoughts?
You know, in life, Linda, we need to learn how, as Kenyans, to be optimistic. And I belong to that school of thought that believes in one being optimistic as opposed to being a pessimist. So we need to always look at every speech or everything that's done by our leaders and see some positives in them as opposed to looking at only the negatives. However, the issue that, of course, remains of great concern is the issue of the police. Now, my colleague is talking about the police as a very big problem. Now, I am aware that as a human being and as a person who believes in human rights, of course, the police has to be responsible and must take care of what they did. But you know, one of the things that we've done as a country, which is very positive about this issue, that's why I'm looking at it as saying positive, we've even formed the IPOA. IPOA, when you look at the IPOA Act, IPOA is meant to provide and actually give checks and balances to the police force. So we are looking, I will really be happy to see what IPOA comes up in terms of the documentation that has taken place, and then what are the penalties that IPOA will put in place in terms of dealing with the police probably who dealt with excessive force during that act. But all said and done, nobody supports the issues of death. Nobody actually is happy when a life is lost. And therefore, this is the entire responsibility of the police force in terms of dealing with these issues. And since we've established mechanisms and institutions in place to deal with these checks and balances, we hope that they'll come out very positive and very proper in this issue. Because remember, you have the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, we have the IPOA itself, and we have so many institutions in this country that deal with human rights abuses. And this has to be checked and provided for.
Kakai.
And the police have also to be accountable for this.
Okay, listen. So I'm just listening into to your explanation, but then do you think that by mentioning the lives that were lost, the president maybe would have reached out to more Kenyans in his congratulatory statement to the police? Do you think he should have mentioned the lives that were lost?
I don't know. It's very difficult for me to say what really the president meant or not, but I want to imagine that the president talked about how he will congratulate the police, how they were able to deal with the situations. But I also want to imagine that at the point when he probably was releasing that press statement congratulating the police, he is very much aware to the fact that the institutions that are given mandates to monitor and document cases of torture should be in a position to brief them what really happened. Because I think that IPOA last week said that they are following up on the deaths that happened and documenting. So I want to think that probably the president wanted to talk about issues of deaths after receiving proper report from IPOA. And since the law allows IPOA to investigate these issues, probably the president wants to speak from an informed point of position, because he's probably aware that that happened, but then there are also conflicting reports of really the numbers or who did it and all this. The police are denying. So I think that it's just a matter of time then he will be briefed properly and he should be able to address that issue. That's my view, because when you are dealing, yes.
Kakai, this message came a couple of days after the president had just been sworn in, and he said he would be the president of Kenyans, those who voted for him and those who did not vote for him. I take cognizance of the fact that you're saying that maybe the numbers are conflicting in terms of the numbers of Kenyans who have been killed in this electioneering period, but as the unifying factor in the Republic of Kenya, shouldn't he have mentioned it?
Maybe he ought to have thought about it or mentioned it, but as I said, probably he wants to mention it with concrete figures or concrete numbers of exactly how many people lost their lives during this period, who was responsible, and then provide a proper explanation to Kenyans of what actions he wants to take after that documentation is done. And that's what I'm saying. Probably he should be able to talk about it, but as a head of state, as a president, you want to deal with the exact figures of why they died, who killed them, and who will be held responsible for that. And IPOA is working on it. So maybe he will talk about it. I don't know. I don't speak for the president anyway. But I want to imagine that these things will come out to the public domain.
Great.
But remember, when you are dealing with deaths, when you are dealing with human rights abuse, when you are dealing with human rights torture, you must document. You must speak on an informed platform in fact of the name, the person, why they died, what was the cause of death, why has the postmortem been done, why not, and all that kind of a thing. So I want to think that the president wants that information clarified.
Okay, Owidi.
You know, from the way my brother is...
Kakai, stay with me on the line.
From the way my brother is talking, it is very difficult to make contribution, because if he believes IPOA is investigating and is going to investigate, then the president's commendation of the police is tantamount to contempt of IPOA. If the president spoke the way he did, if the president has written the letter that he had asked his police officer to write, which IPOA will now go on investigating the police?
Kakai when the says IPOA is an independent body.
The independence of Kenyan bodies is on paper. Nothing is true, nothing is real. It is not possible. The influence a Kenyan president wields.
That is not a fair statement.
The influence a Kenyan president wields. You cannot stand on his way. Remember when he threatened the courts, you saw what happened.
No, but you can't say the independence of institutions in Kenya are in question. I mean, you just saw the Supreme Court annulling the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta in the first round. So
and after they had annulled, you watched how the president talked. And there was nothing that was done differently on 26th from 8th.
Okay,
nothing was done differently, but you see, after the president had talked, nothing happened. Even this Commission of Human Rights, when they have had the president has commended the police, they are going to do nothing against the police. That was a cue. Look, I myself, the president of the Republic of Kenya, the president of all Kenyans, I have said the police did a commendable job within the law. Which is this law IPOA is going to come with, different from what the president was reading? So let us not pretend, let us not cheat ourselves that the influence of the president is limited to the presidency.
Oh, let me ask
All
you.
these so-called independent bodies that have littered the country of Kenya, that swallows our tax every day, none of them is independent. If they were independent, we would have had a very free and fair election. If they were independent, the president should have not included commending them in their speech. He commended IEBC, the judiciary, and the police.
Okay, so from where you sit, the president trying to reach out, it's not working. And that is
It's not working.
Okay, and that is
He has not done it.
Okay, and that is probably why NASA leader Raila Odinga did mention that he will be sworn in as the people's president on December 12th. This should be interesting. Could we listen in?
Tuliambia nyinyi ya kama wakiapisha, tulisema namna hiyo. Nataka muelewe kwa makini kabisa. Nyinyi mnajua Raila Odinga si muoga. Nafikiri mimi naweza kuwa muoga. Naweza kuwa muoga. Sawa. Yale tunataka kufanya. Maana hapa unajua kuna kuapishwa na kuapishwa. Hapa Uganda, naita Bwana Besigye aliapishwa kama rais. Hakuapishwa, sio? Wiki jana kule Zimbabwe, Bwana Mnangagwa waliapishwa, hakuapishwa. Basi tutaapisha. Hiyo tumechukua kwa sababu ile Agosti 8 mahakama ilisema imeweka kando, lakini tutafanya njia ya kurudisha hiyo ndani iwe kwa katiba, na tunaapishwa tunaingia Ikulu. Sawa? Wangapi wanaunga mkono?
Aya, tunaapisha, tunaingia Ikulu. Kakai Kissinger, you're the legal mind here. Legally speaking, how possible is this?
You know, we live in a country that we fought for a legal framework or a constitution and all enabling provisions of the law, where we say as Kenyans we believe in what we call the rule of law. The rule of law simply means that you believe in a certain law, you've engaged yourself in coming up with that law, and you are affirming or confirming to all Kenyans that as Kenyans, you want to abide by the rule of law. Now, the Constitution is what we call in legal terms a grand norm, or an instrument that provides rules and mechanisms that Kenyans, other people, must follow. The last I checked that we passed our Constitution on 8th of August in 2010, and in that Constitution we established milestones in terms of institutions and in terms of what we want to be governed as a people or as a country. Since 2010, we've not done any referendum on the current Constitution, and therefore we have not changed any article or any of the spirit of the Constitution. Now, what we did in that Constitution, we came up with mechanisms of how our president should be sworn in. And the mechanism of how our president is supposed to be sworn in under the Constitution is guided by Article 141 and 142 of the Constitution. What we also last week happening on Monday is what is guided for by the Constitution, where a president is sworn in by an arm of government, which is the judiciary, and he takes oath of execution and takes oath of doing his functions as a president. Now, when you look at the Constitution from page 1 to the last page, when you look at the spirit of the Constitution, when you look at generally the aspirations and the milestones that the Constitution is supposed to achieve, there unfortunately are no other parallel means or ways of swearing in a president. A president is only sworn in once, and a president is only sworn in as per the Article 141. Now, that is what the law talks about. I do not know now any other mechanisms that are enshrined or established by the Constitution that can guarantee or can allow a person who wants to be sworn in as a president to be sworn in. Now, supposing you swear in a president in a manner that is not provided for by the Constitution, then the question is, does it become a constitutional means of doing it, or is it an unconstitutional means of doing it?
Kakai.
It is unconstitutional.
Kakai, quick one, because I need to wrap this up. Does it matter that NASA said they do not recognize the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta in 30 seconds?
Well, recognition is something else. What Kenyans have now decided is that the judiciary has sworn the President Uhuru Kenyatta into office. So legally, the judiciary has done its function.
Okay.
And all other arms of government have done their function. And the Kenyan people have decided. Now, recognition is a political thing. They may not recognize the president, but legally is now the president of the country.
Okay. Kakai Kissinger, thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Oidi, Odoyo, you get the final word.
I have also listened to Kakai about Raila Odinga swearing in. I've even heard some people who have said that it is treasonable. But it is just as treasonable as rigging elections is also treasonable. The Constitution demands that we have an election which is verifiable. We have been unable to verify any of these elections, in fact, since 2013. We need to go to court and demand that these elections are all verifiable. As long as these elections are not verifiable, they are all treasonable to whoever delivered them. We must also admit that the Supreme Court gave a judgment. And you know what they said? That those people who went to court to challenge the election of Uhuru Kenyatta on 26th had no merit. They didn't say the election was free and fair. They didn't say the election was that lawful. Those people had no merit because they would have not beaten Uhuru Kenyatta since Raila Odinga was not there. That is all the court said. And wait for the 21 days ruling they will read. Okay. So somebody saying that Raila Odinga should not be sworn in is just as wrong as somebody who believes Uhuru Kenyatta should have been sworn in.
But Awidi, what law is NASA going to use to do this?
There is no law that allows anyone to rig any elections.
You're not answering.
So if we are going to talk about Raila Odinga, then we must also talk about Uhuru Kenyatta on the same vein. This is Kenya for us all. We all found ourselves here. Nobody invited the other to come here. You see, we cannot have a country where we work for others and they enjoy the benefits of our sweat. In fact, wait and...
We is who?
We are Kenyans, citizens. Yes. But you see, some people, when they talk, it is like Kenyans are a certain clique of people, not everyone. Because even when serious chunk of Kenyans are complaining, they still say they are wrong, Kenyans are right. So you wonder which Kenyans they are talking about being right. Okay, so 12th, this is going to happen? It is going to happen. How they will handle it, that one now we leave to them and God. But now that he has commended the police for a job well done, probably they will handle it the way they handled the Jacaranda rally. They will handle it the way they handled the information from the movement from the airport. With the political analyst, allow me to also say a very big thank you to Kakai Kissinger, who joined us on phone on this show. He's a lawyer, and we are also saying a big thank you to Ambrose Weda, who really tried to get here on time. Unfortunately, he wasn't. I'm hoping we can have him for the next show. Thank you so much for watching Crossfire. This is where we leave it at. Checkpoint with Yvonne Okwara Matole begins at 9 p.m. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow on KTN Prime.